Hey YouTubers, Craig the Sculptor Painter here, and welcome to part 2 of our discussion on how to prep MDF. And today we're going to be looking at the caulking the MDF. Last time we looked at the spackling, which is the first part of the process. So before I demonstrate how we actually do our caulking, there's a few pointers that I want to go over regarding our equipment, our caulking gun. And first off, is the positioning of the tube in the caulking gun. We want to find a defining point on the tube that will allow us to know where the nozzle is flat. So in this case I'm going to use the main label and I'm going to use the English side. So here in Canada we have the French and the English. So I don't speak French, so I'm going to pick the English side. So now that we've selected our defining marker on the tube, we're going to make a cut, an angle cut, as small as we can, underneath. And always remember to cut away, not towards you. Once you've marked it, we can turn it over. And if we have to make that a little bigger, we can, like so. And then we want to shave away these rounded parts on the outside. You just do that, take a little bit off there. A little bit off there. Like so. Okay. So a good rule to follow is that if there is a hole, be it in the wall or the trim, it gets the spackle. And if there's a crack or a place where there's an expansion joint, it gets the caulking. And here's an example, case in point. So this wall, although you can't see it in the camera, is probably about 40 feet long. So the carpenter had to join the base in a couple of places. So we're going to have to fill those. It might be tempting just to use spackle when we're filling the holes. But because it could expand there, we want to use the caulking. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll just put it on. It's similar to where there's a 45 on the door and window casing. So just work that in with your finger. Once you've got it on the surface, just work that in. So before I demonstrate the caulking process, there's one other piece of equipment that's really invaluable, and that is a damp cloth. Always have one at the ready. In fact, we should be wearing one all the time when we're painting. So just squeeze the trigger, feed the caulking into the gap. Keep feeding it in there. And don't worry about, we want to see the caulking pouring out of it a little bit. It's not good if it sinks all the way back in there. Now we may have to caulk a couple of times if we have a really big gap like this one. But just keep feeding that in. So now we want to clean up the caulking that we just did, but we don't want to take the rag and press it into the corner and wipe. What we do is wet our finger with a damp rag and pull it down. All the way down, nice and smooth. And then you can wipe off the excess. So once we've done all our vertical surfaces, as well as the top of the door frame, we can start to do our baseboards. And just dampen our finger. If we have really wide gaps, we may have to do this twice. Now once we've done all our base at the top, we need to do the end joins as well. follow it around there, follow the contour around. Profile of the MDF. Dampen our finger. And push that into the join of the trim, the base of the door trim. And there we have it. So now that we've done all the gaps between the drywall and the trim, we want to do the gaps on the door frames and the window frame returns. And what we'll find is that the miters will have to caulk, and then where the trim meets the wood or MDF return at these points of contact here. So you just feed it down on the surface. Again, you take your wet rag, and you don't use the rag to wipe that up. You just dampen your finger, and you just push toward the gap. Like so. And work it in. And that'll take care of it, and then you might just take off the excess then, once it's worked in. And at that point you can use your wet cloth. And then last but not least, I'm going to do where your returns meet and where your trim meets the return. And again, dampen your finger and wipe off the excess. Use a wet rag to clean that up. Like so. And there you have it. Caulking your MDF trim. So prepping trim like this is by far the most laborious and tedious part of the painting process. But if we do this really well, we're going to end up with a really fine paint job, one that we'll be really proud of. So be patient with it, do the best you can, and just think about the end result. Don't forget to subscribe. By all means leave a comment, or if you have any questions, you can leave those too. So this is Craig the Muskoka Painter, helping you take the pain out of painting.